Hello and welcome back to the channel. In this video we're going to be taking an in-depth look at the Tudor Mini Sub, specifically the 73190 reference. Now this reference marked the end of the Tudor Mini Sub line. It was discontinued in 1999 and started in 1995. Throughout that there were many variations of Tudor Mini Sub available, some two-tone, some on different bracelets, some on different dials as we see here. So I'm going to talk through them and talk through the dimensions and different specifications of this watch. So we're going to start off with the dimensions. So they all share the same dimensions. This particular black one is on a different aftermarket strap, but they all have the same dimensions. So 33mm across the bezel, 10mm thickness, 10.8 if you include the Cyclops, and 17mm lug width, so the distance between the lugs, and 39mm lug to lug. So a nice compact watch. If we see here on my 6-inch wrist, it sits quite nicely. So definitely a watch if you've got smaller wrists. As well, these are a lot cheaper than your standard 39mm Tudor Submariner. So why are these so much better than other mini subs? So there's sort of 3 generations of mini subs. I'm going to do another in-depth video on them because I've had a few of them and I'm not 100% an expert, but I know a bit about them. I quite like them. So this is the 3rd gen. It has noticeable differences. So this one here is a 97. This one here is a 98. So this one, for example, has Superluminova. We've got a unidirectional bezel that makes a nice click. Hopefully, I can't read. It's hard to rotate with one hand. Maybe this one. So yeah, they have a unidirectional bezel. So previous generations had a bi-directional bezel that I can't actually get to rotate. I'll just put this down. Hopefully you can hear that rotation there. So, which is very nice, very much like a Rolex Submariner. So the Mini Sub is a smaller Submariner. So Tudor made a 39mm Submariner, a 36. This, the Mini Sub, being a 33, and then a Lady Sub being the 27mm. They started out making a Submariner in obviously 40mm, which sort of transitioned into the 39. They then bought in a 36, and then they bought in a 31. Now they were all called Submariners. So then what they did is they split the 31mm off, so they made it a bit bigger, made that 33, called that the Mini Sub, and they also made it a bit smaller, 27mm, and called it the Lady Sub. So by the end of the line, in the late 90s, you had 4 options to choose from. They came on 2 bracelets primarily, and in 2 dial formats. So you have the bigger sort of maxi tritium dial, this sort of nipple dial. So this tritium dial was on a lot of the early watches, so up to about 97, 98 is a crossover, only available in tritium. This was available in tritium and superluminova. So it gets a bit confusing. The easiest way to tell is down the bottom. If it's a tritium dial, it will say T, Swiss made T. And if it's a superluminova, it will just say Swiss made. So the advantages of the tritium, I think it looks a lot more like the bigger Tudor subs and like the Rolex is. This, a lot more dressy, looks a lot smarter, particularly on this bracelet, which I'll get onto bracelets in a minute. And it also holds charge a lot better. It's not brilliant, but it is sort of legible once you charge it up. This has no charge at whatsoever. So this is a 97, I believe this is a 98, with box papers, and at time making this video is currently for sale. So if you're interested in it, please do pop a comment below. So movements, it uses an ETA 2671, so a bit like the 2824, just a bit smaller. Servicing with a Rolex sort of not a boutique, but a dealer that sells Rolexes, or with Rolex, it's about £250–280 at time making this video. So that's pretty good. This one, when I bought it not that long ago, came freshly serviced and it's been keeping great time. This one's running about +5 seconds a day, so not amazing. Power reserve isn't amazing. So if you were to buy it, you may consider a service, although it's still running well enough. But it's not. This one's obviously freshly serviced, so it's running really well. It has a bit of patina on it. It may have had a redial because the loom on the bezel has deteriorated, but not the dial. So maybe that. But again, so interesting quirk of these is the dial is super luminova, but you can see the top of the bezel, that is tritium. So interesting quirk on these, and that's what I quite like about these. They're sort of thrown together at the end of the line before the Hydronaut came out. Hydronaut lasted for 10 odd years, then was replaced by the Black Bay. And still to this day, Tudor don't offer a dive watch in this size. Some will say it's a bit small for a diver. I probably agree, but they make great everyday watches. So that's the basics you need to know about a 73190. They were only available with date. They're available in a lot of colours. Most desirable is probably the black in this format, the blue in this format. So this colour with this dial format is also more popular. Sort of this sort of nipple dial, more fancy dial format is sort of less favoured, I think, because this is, you know, more traditional sub. Although on this bracelet it does work really well, which brings me on to bracelets. So this is an aftermarket, you know, a Rolex Jubilee 17mm. So any 17mm bracelet should fit reasonably well. Don't take my word on that, but 17mm Rolex bracelet on that. This has got the original Tudor. I believe it's the 6 to 450. So if I just place it down. Yeah, so you can't quite see him there because the light bit is the 62450 bracelet. So they use this on a lot of Tudors in the day. So the print state, similar case size, would have had that. So it works really well, I think, with this. However, this one, when I got it, came on this bracelet, I didn't feel it worked that well. It's a bit showy, so I put it on this so it looks more like your standard sub. However, some of the more dressy ones, the two-tone ones, sort of a white and a salmon dial. Salmon dials are quite interesting. They work well on this, so it's all choice, but obviously you can swap the bracelet out. You've still got the holes here on the lug, so you can put your strap tool through. That brings me on to another thing, which is cases. So see, that's got the Rolex logo, and on the back, might not be able to see it, Rolex signed case back. This one, so that's a 97, 98. Tudor logo, and you have to take my word for it, the Tudor case back. So it's another thing to look out for. So at the start, 95, 96, 97, there's a lot of Rolex signed crowns and case backs, which is why I wanted this one, because obviously it's got the Rolex signed crown, Rolex signed case back. So actually putting a Rolex bracelet on it probably isn't that much sacrilege. And also the original first iteration of a mini sub, if you like, that was called the Submariner for 31mm, which I talked about earlier, that came on a Rolex bracelet. So by this point it was all Tudor bracelets, but some of the crowns and case backs were Rolex. But as we get into 98 and 95, 99 even, it's all Tudor. Although you know, it's probably made by the same people, it doesn't really matter, but slight quirks. Another quirk is the dial. So see where it says Tudor print state. I believe some of them say Tudor Oyster print state or Tudor Prince Oyster. There's oyster in there on some of the dials as well, so another quirk. So I'm just doing this video because these watches are pretty scarce, not many people are interested in them. So just to give you a bit more information about dimensions, which ones, you know, what variations there are. So ultimately there's two bracelets. There's this one, which is like the Jubilee Oyster, then you've got the old school sort of folded sort of Tudor bracelet that you would see on older Submariners and so on. So those are the two they come on. You can of course put any 17mm lug width bracelet on that fits. In terms of dials, I think there's definitely white dial, black dial, salmon dial, and loads of combination. I'd say most popular, this black one, this, you know, sort of bigger tritium dial in this blue as well. This blue seems to be quite popular, so you can't go wrong with black or blue. I'd say it depends on your application. If you're going to wear it every day, I like black. For something a bit more special, blue is good. There's also a salmon dial, which is good for something a bit more special. Other than that, I probably wouldn't steer too much into it. There's also a black dial with a silver bezel, sort of Explorer 2 vibes. But I would just go black on black if you can. Now these are very reasonably rare. For the moment there isn't any for sale. There's a few blue ones for sale, but you just got to wait your time. So in terms of prices, they vary a lot. Box and papers, no box and papers, what condition. But they're a couple of grand, so in sort of the same spectrum as an Omega Speedmaster. So they're thereabouts. They're also reasonably rare, so you know there is a potentially investment potential, but I wouldn't buy it for that. I think it depends on the trends and sizes and so on. If small watches like this come back in fashion, then you know they're going to be popular. If Tudor re-release sort of a mini Black Bay or something, maybe they'll come back in fashion, or maybe they'll just die out. So they've not gone up a huge amount in the last sort of five or so years. So potentially it's time to buy. I'd say wait, because these things don't sell particularly quickly for big bucks, and they don't absolutely fly off the shelves. So if someone's got one for sale, you're in with a decent chance of finding it. So I think they're really good because they've got the modern functionality. So you've got sapphire crystal, which I didn't mention earlier. Unidirectional bezel, twin lock crown. So this is twin lock, not trip lock, but still decent enough. Rated for 200 meters. Obviously, you want to pressure test it before that, but for just general use, obviously, your ever reliable Oyster case. I think it's a really good mix. This 73190. So the 3 in that, so the second digit stands for the case diameter. So you've also got the 75190, which references for 35, 36 mil, and then the 79190, which references the 39 mil. So that's pretty much it. If you've got any questions, put them in the comments below. But hopefully I've done a bit to shed a bit more light on these watches. They're quite rare. Hopefully I've given you a bit more info on dimensions, on what to look out for when buying them. Ultimately, they're pretty cheap to service, so if you've got one that's running really badly, service might be 250 quid, so just use it as a bargaining tool. Bracelets, again, you can swap them out for only 17mm bracelets. So I was for a long time put off by this bracelet. It's actually really comfortable, a lot more comfortable than an Oyster, but it's a bit more showy, so it's up to you. I'm going to do another video on the history of sort of a Tudor Mini Sub, so looking at each generation. But hopefully I'll shed it a bit more on dimensions. I think if you've got a small wrist, so I have 6-inch wrists, so something even like a standard not a standard Black Bay, but a Black Bay 58 is probably pushing it a little bit for me. That's about as big as I'd wear. These are really good. Potentially these are too small. Even for a 6-inch wrist, I think the 36 would be good, but a 36mm one is double the price. So you could have these two or 136, so it is up to you. So also at the time making this one is for sale, full box. So it's got box, outer box, original papers. So if you want this, let me know. It's in good condition, decent condition. It's got a few more links for a bracelet. It runs reasonably well. It's not absolutely perfect, but certainly within recommended manufacturer specs. And that's another thing as well, which Tudors are cheaper because they use, or used to use, bought-in movements like ETA. So I think the spec for this is between -15 plus 15 a day, and a Rolex might be -2 plus 2 or something. Don't quote me on that, but the tolerances are wider, but they're cheap to service. They're rugged, utilitarian. I like them. I like this because it goes under the radar. It's a bit smaller, but it's still a Submariner. And the beauty of this is a Submariner in today's climate is 8 grand. This is 2, so you could have this, something like a Black Bay GMT, and potentially a Datejust. So you've got like your diver, your GMT, and your dressy watch, all for a price of one. So it depends what you're into. Particularly if you've got smaller wrists, I definitely say these are worth a look. I was unsure about buying one at first, but I really like them. So That's all, guys. Thanks for watching. If you've got any comments, put them in the comment section below and I'll try and get back to you. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next one.